Hi everyone, Salim Sufi here. Welcome to the another session of CFO coaching program Inner Circle, and hope everybody is doing well and you are able to see my screen and listen to my voice clearly. Okay, good. Very good. Thanks, Shailesh. So Saturday is a busy day for us. Us means that there are many participants in this program who are also attending my strategy program, and we do the classes same day. We start 9 p.m. the way time for the strategy, finish at 11, and then in less than an hour we have to start again. So it's a good challenge, and I appreciate the participants who are attending both the sessions very regularly, and Shailesh is one of them. So good job, Shailesh. Okay, so this session is related to leadership. And basically there is a specific concept about authentic leadership. That's what we're going to talk about. But before we start, in this session, many new people have started. So I would like to take the opportunity, and many people are continuing for long. I mean, this is a ongoing program. We are doing it since January this year, and many of you joined from January, but then every month people kept adding into that program. So I just want to explain the structure, how the program has been designed, and how can you take best advantage, best benefit from this program. So this is the framework. I'm not sure if you have gone through it, but that is what I follow in all of my training and coaching. This is a CFO leadership competency or C-level competency model. I believe that every one of you is fully capable of reaching to the C-level roles in your organization or any other organization. And the reason of my belief is that compared to other disciplines like engineering, medicines, you don't need any particular qualification for it, for business. You can become a CEO without any technical qualification or even academic qualification. Now we know that there are many college dropout billionaires running multi-billion-dollar organizations. They don't have any specific degrees or certificates, but they have a lot of talent, and they have developed this talent over a long period of time, and they have been extremely successful. And I'm not suggesting that you should not go for academic or professional qualification. What I'm saying that especially for the younger people, it's important to get a good academic qualification like MBA or Masters and get some certification in your profession. If you want to become come in the finance and accounting, then CPA or ACCA or Chartered Accountancy is a good certification to enter into the profession. But that's it. This is equivalent to an entry ticket into the profession, and probably if you work hard, you could easily reach to a middle level position with the help of this academic qualification and certification as well as your experience. But beyond that, from mid-level to the top level, it's a different ball game altogether. So it does not care about your experience or certification or qualification. It requires your leadership, and that's what we are going to talk about it. So if you look at this framework on your screen, I call it leadership competency model, and there are three aspects or three dimensions: personal leadership, public leadership, and strategic leadership. So the way I explain that you really, to become a leader, you have to work on yourself first a lot. And if you look at the individual components of this personal leadership dimension, it starts with work-life integration, and then clarifying your mind for the peak performance and emotional intelligence and personal branding. These are the things you work on yourself. And once you are ready, then you switch to your public leadership, where this is where you are interacting with the external world, and your communication matters, your presentation skills matter, your personal brand matters, your relationship counts, how do you serve other people, that really counts, and that determines the success or failure of your public leadership. Strategic leadership comes to really managing and leading businesses. So once you are successful with your personal leadership as well as the public leadership, you are well accepted by outside leaders. Now you are qualified to really go to the top level business leadership positions, and there comes the strategic leadership with components like strategic thinking, business modeling, value creation, etc. So in this inner circle program, the way this has been designed, it's an ongoing program. It's not one training or one course you are attending, although it's long term. The way I have designed, based on my last 3 years experience dealing with thousands of finance professionals around the world, what I have learned myself, that you could probably learn operating instruction for a new equipment very quickly in a short session. You could also learn some techniques of financial analysis probably in one-day training. But when it comes to the leadership, it's all about changing your mindset. So a lot of internal beliefs you have to change. And then it's also a lot to do about your habits. Now these are long-term things. Changing your mindset, changing your habits is long-term. And it doesn't happen in a one-day training or two-day training or even 5-day training. So I have done corporate training for the last 20 years. And my focus has always been to create results, not only do training, but for the participants who invest their time and money and energy, really create results. And I realized that for some level of some technical trainings, the short trainings, 1 day, 2 day, 3 day works very well. But when it comes to the leadership, it really doesn't work. Even if you go to the Ivy League schools like Harvard and Stanford for a 1 week or 2 week, you go there, you spend a lot of time and you spend a lot of money and you get excited and you do get a lot of good information and you come back very excited with a lot of training materials and manuals and other things. But look, in 3 to 4, maybe 4 to 6 weeks, you are back where you started, right? Haven't you experienced this type of things? You went to 1 full day or 2 day or 3 day training. So what I realized that, look, it's not about spending full days or number of days in a row to learn these things. It's an ongoing process actually. Leadership is an ongoing development, which means that there has to be small doses. And this has been, I was reading Primal Leadership by Daniel Goleman. Primal Leadership, very good book. I will suggest you at the end of the session to refer to that. And he's an expert in the emotional intelligence, and he described that, look, what I'm saying, that the technical trainings are fine in the short-term sessions, in one go you could learn, but for leadership skills, it has to be long-term and it has to be small doses, because it should be consistent. Really, you should be able to internalize, digest it, and change your mindset and change your habits, right? So I designed this program especially with that in my mind. I said, okay, before this inner circle, I was doing this program in 12 weeks, same contents, 12 weeks, 3 months. And many people, I think 200 people already gone through that program. And a lot of them were very happy. But what I realized in many cases, they were really not able to achieve long-term results because they gained good knowledge, but they couldn't really change their habits. So I came out with this idea that I need to make it structured in a way that you are able to achieve results. So came out that inner circle program. Now, inner circle program, as you know, it's sort of weekly short dosage sessions. So 3 times a month, 3 weeks in a row, starting from the 2nd week, 3rd week, and 4th week, we do 3 coaching sessions. So we pick a topic. So we are picking the topic today of authentic leadership. And for 90 minutes, I share the ideas with you, share the insight. You build up knowledge with particular idea, right? First session. Now, all this we learn and discuss and teach in this program is all very practical. All practical. We are not going to discuss textbook here, right? We don't have time for it. So you take all the stuff here, contents, and in the next week, during the week, you try to apply it. You try to see your situations. What are you doing? What are you doing right? What are you not doing right? Or what you need to change, right? And then the next week, the 3rd week, we get together again in a coaching session like this. And mainly we focus on question answer. So now this is your opportunity in the 2nd week to ask specific questions about your situation. What should you do, and what ideas, if there is any confusion about those things, right? And we continue with the 3rd week on the same topic. Probably we can continue on our own. If there is a lot of stuff we still have to cover, we go on our own, question answer or content sharing. And if there is capacity, time, then we try to bring in another expert from outside, a CFO or an executive recruiter or another expert, to share some external ideas with us, right? So that is how we covered in 3 weeks, spending about, I would say, 4 to 5 hours on one topic, right? Now, excuse me, beauty of this method is that it really gives your mind and body the time to not only digest the contents, but see whether it works for you or not, and take your time to tune it inside yourself, in your mind, in your body, and start practicing the habits. And that is how you started to develop the new habits and new mindset for leadership, right? Okay, so this framework, we have identified about 12 competencies. So we take one competency each month and we try to do it. The other learning for me was that the middle section, strategic leadership, is a little bit more challenging and more technical. So I tried to do those topics in this program, but we didn't have sufficient time to cover those. So I excluded that. We do cover strategic thinking in this program, Inner Circle, but business modeling, value creation, performance management, balance scorecard, strategy mapping, 5 forces of customer analysis, different type of things were not possible. So that is where I created a separate program called a strategic CFO program. And that is where we are covering these topics in much more detail, because strategy is something you cannot learn in a short manner. You need to really go deep. To become a strategist, to really run a business, you need to go deep. And currently, there are 46 people in the strategic CFO program. Many of them, by the way, came from this Inner Circle, because they realize that yes, they are developing leadership skills, but they need to go a lot deeper into strategic CFO program, and that is where they are doing it. So not necessary that you have to do it simultaneously, but those of you who are in this Inner Circle program, you are covering leadership part, which is very, very important. And at the right point of time, you can also start the CFO strategic program when we announce the new batch. But this is, as I said, the more important thing to understand. This is not a 1 month or 1 week or 2-day training. I have fully understood with my own experience, with my own career, and observing thousands of professionals, that most of you are in the mid-level of your career. And finance and accounting is a sort of function which is always overloaded. So everybody is overloaded, everybody is working late hours, and many professionals want to learn, want to develop, but unfortunately, despite good intentions, they couldn't find time. And this is what I realized, that even we offer 1-day, 2-day training, many people want to attend, but they cannot find time. And even if they find time, they do not get all the results. So this structure we are following in this Inner Circle program and a strategic CFO program. Actually, all of my program is going with this blended structure, that mostly we do online on the weekend, which is very convenient for majority of people. And for advanced level program like Mastermind, we do blended, like 2-day workshop in Dubai we did for the Mastermind we did last time. So depending on the program. But this Inner Circle, back to this program, is designed to develop your habits. So now you are developing a habit. Many of you are following this program since January, and you see that yes, we take 1 week break every month, but 3 weeks you come to this session, you get a lot of contents, you refer to that content, you try to internalize, understand them, and they try to apply also. So you are gradually, in a consistent manner, developing your leadership, and that is how exactly you could become a leader. So I thought this preamble is very important for, especially for those people who are starting now. And we do this topic not in a particular sequence, but as I said, that if you join this program, and if you continue at least for 12 months, you will complete the cycle. You will cover each and every topic, which are itself independent in their nature. There is no particular sequence. So if you did not do peak performance before, you will do in few months time, and you will cover that, because leadership is about your total leadership, totality, total personality development, inside, outside, mind and body. And if you continue 12 months, then you will get the whole content. And I do it always live. I mean, I have many recorded sessions I could just replay for you, but I do it live, because what I'm realizing, that every time I pick a topic, I have to update a lot of contents, because things are changing so fast. So for example, if I did the personal branding 6 months ago, and if I have to do for the next month, I will look at the content and I will see that a lot of things have changed. So I need to update that. So if you are attending live session, keep assured that you are getting the latest contents, because one example, until last year, I was recommending my coaching students to follow a lot of social media like LinkedIn, Facebook, Skype, YouTube, Twitter, and then I realized it's becoming unpractical and a little bit overwhelming. So from this year, I changed my advice. Now you just need to focus on LinkedIn, because the level of investment and the level of ROI you will get from LinkedIn is not comparable. And you could get, by simply focusing on LinkedIn, you could get a lot more results than really distracting yourself with a lot of media. So this is one example. I changed my advice, and that's what I'm saying. The world is changing very fast, and that is what I want to update myself to really advise you and coach you with the latest things. Okay, good. So in this structure of this program, inner circle, because there is a large audience, more than 100 people, it is not possible to keep it interactive. So other programs like CFO, strategic program, we do interactive. That's a different platform, different format technologically. We can talk, but here with more than 100 people, actually reaching to close to 150, we cannot do it interactive. So the best way to really interact is the chat box or question box. Anything comes in you. So this is live interactive, right? So don't feel that it's a replay or recording. Any question you have, you can just drop in the chat box or question box, and I keep looking at my screen, and I pick the question based on the timing and the suitability, and try to answer that right away there. So we are having a real-time interaction, but that is the best mechanism we could follow. If you join other program with less attendance, like in strategic CFO, we try to keep 20, 22 people. That's possible interactively. And of course, mastermind, we do a lot of one-on-one session, coaching session, and interaction, and live workshops, etc. So different program, different format, and that's why the fee for this program is very, very low, very, very low, which again, you can not only afford, but you don't feel any burden. That's become a part of lifestyle, that yes, you are getting very, by the way, the value of these contents, many contents are from the mastermind program, where we charge thousands of dollars. So you are getting the same value of contents with a different structure, and with different structure, for majority of the people, the fee is very, very affordable, $47 a month. So you keep paying for a longer period, like 12 months or even longer if you want to, but you are getting this this benefit in terms of the regular, consistent leadership development and coaching. Okay, so let me start, and as I said, you can keep dropping your question. I'll pick up at the right level, but let me just start with the authentic leadership contents, and we'll do that question and answer at different intervals. Give me a second. Yeah. So what is authentic leadership? Authentic leadership precisely is revealed in the alignment of what you think, what you say, and what you do. Fully aligned. Walking the walk and talking the talk. Talking the walk and walking the talk. So when everything people notice in you, they are fully aligned, you become authentic leader, which is very demanding role actually, and it's not achieved immediately. Now, before there were many leadership styles, like we'll talk about those leadership style as well. But today, to really be successful in a serious business environment, you have to be an authentic leader. Now, when we talk about the leadership, there is a huge research for decades, maybe centuries. And still, if you talk to experts and want to get one definition, it's very difficult that what is the leadership, because there are different school of thoughts. In our observation, if you look around, you will find two domains or two sectors where you find leaders. Public leaders in the political arena, political leaders rather more specifically, and then the leaders in the business arena, business environment. Unfortunately, globally, we don't see a lot of good authentic leaders in the political arena today. Third world is worse, but even in the more mature developed part of the world, you don't find that many good examples. But if you look at the business environment, because it's competitive, open market, there is a lot of competition, there's a lot of choice. You will see extremely good examples, like Steve Jobs, like GE CEO Jack Welch, and even current CEO Tim Cook. These are the people who are the real example and symbol of authentic leadership, because the accountability is very high. I mean, in political positions, so-called leaders, they come for 4 years, 5 years, and they feel at liberty, whatever they want to do, and nobody could change them. Now, in business environment, accountability is very high. If your company performance is not good one day, second day you may be fired by the board of directors. And that is how, because of this, accountability, high level of accountability, the development of business leaders has been very tight and very matured and very sophisticated. We'll talk a few examples going forward. So more specifically, authentic leadership, we said talk and speak and do in alignment. Specifically, it is about your passion, which comes through your purpose. So we are talking about the personal leadership. Your value define your behavior. So same thing, a little bit expanded. Your heart decides your compassion, and your self-discipline and consistency and your connections define your relationship. So see, this covers all those things, right? Now in leadership development, as I explained earlier, we start with the personal self-leadership development because that's a starting point. If you cannot clarify your purpose of the life, or your values and your emotions, you cannot develop or display your leadership to other outside people. And that is why in one of the sessions in this program, we do the life vision and values exercise, where we try to define life purpose, life values, and then integrate them with the career. So I'm a big advocate of work-life integration, because there is no work-life balance. These are not two different segments or compartments you work together. It's one life and it's fully integrated. And once you integrate the life, you will feel that your values are aligned and you started to behave like an authentic leader. This is the template. I just want to show you. We are not going in detail, but this is what we cover in our life visioning exercise. So if you look at the bottom, and this is all about leadership, that's why I'm sharing here, that you need to understand that leadership is not a shortcut. Leadership is not really learning and practicing a few gimmicks and tactics and just become a leader. That may still be possible in the political arena, but in business, the competition is so high, you just cannot do that and cannot be successful. Now, we do have few rare examples where you see some people reach to the level of leadership, but they're not really genuine or authentic leaders, and they cannot survive in the long term. So back to this framework you are looking at your screen, we start with the life, purpose, and mission. Why am I here? What is the purpose of my life? It's not to really do a job or to become a finance manager or even to become a CFO. There should be a greater cause and purpose. And through this exercise, we try to identify your life vision. Now, life vision could be, again, it's not about career, but probably most of the corporate professionals would leave corporate environment somewhere plus minus 60 age. But that's not end of life. In today's environment, in today's time, the quality of life we enjoy, even if you're living in a third world country, but the category and the social class you belong to, you are easily expected to live up to 80, 85. That's your expected age. So imagine there is oversupply of talent. There is less demand from the business, so which means it is not possible for senior corporate executives to survive in the corporate environment beyond 60, 65. So even if you retire in 60, 65, there is another 20, 25 years of your life. What are you going to do for that? Your life not ended with the end of your career. That's about the life vision. So we try to create an integrated vision that, okay, career is very important because that is how you live your life and you support your family. But what are you ultimately, where do you want to see yourself end of your last phase of your life? So you would be looking for a lot of money, maybe. You will be looking for a corporate role. I want to retire as a CEO or CFO. Maybe you want to have your own consulting or your own business. Maybe you just want to have a retired, happy life with your family. Or maybe you have some internal desire to achieve something, self-fulfillment. So whatever that vision is, that is the most important thing from your life point of view. In between, you have a lot of goals. What are those goals? That is where we're spending our life. So strategic thinking, strategy, career planning, communication, leadership, influence, peak performance, capacity, management, mindset, work-life integration. These all things are a means toward an end. They are not end in itself. These are the goals, or these are intermediary goals we try to achieve to make a better living, to make a better life, to reach faster, better, and in a more effective manner to achieve our vision. So that's a framework and that's a mindset you need for leadership. Now, more specifically, if we say authentic leadership, what does it mean? So every one of you have to look back and say, okay, am I an authentic leader or not? Very simple criteria. There are two things: your character and your competence. So your competence is your professional capabilities, like how many IFRS you know, how many qualifications and certifications you have done, chartered accountancy, ACA, MBA, etc. That's all about competency, which is very important, right? In professional career, very important. But for leadership, character is also very important. Character. If you don't have character, you may reach to a position, corporate role, but you may not be a trusted and authentic leader. And what connects these two things, character and competence, is a trust and your credibility. In other words, your reputation, your brand, how the world looks at you. And this is Stephen Covey. By the way, I recommended every one of you to read 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. This is from Stephen Covey. And I'll show you that book, exactly title and author. But this is what I say, that if you have to read one book in your life, that's the one. This is an excellent book on business and leadership. And Stephen Covey is no more, but he's very talented and intellectual in terms of the leadership. And this is what he said, that trust is equal part character and competence. You can look at any leadership failure, and it's always a failure of one or the other. So competency is not enough. Some people very proudly add the all alphabets next to their name. ACMA, CA, BBB, CIG. Okay, that's one part. But if you don't have a character and a reputation and a brand and a trust from other people, you can never become a leader. And if you look around, in this template, it's further expanded. So we are saying that trust is a product of character and competence. Not one of the other only, both together, character and competence. And what is character? It is your intention. When you care about other people, when you have a transparent life, there is nothing bad you want to hide. You are open to other people, you are honest, you are fair, you are authentic. And in competency, it's your capability, your skills, knowledge, experience, qualification, certifications, degrees, and your results in terms of reputation, your credibility, and your performance, your experience. That all counts to build up your character and competence, and that creates trust, which is the ultimate requirement to become an authentic leader. So this is a good template to see yourself, rank yourself actually. On each attribute, rank yourself on 1 to 10. And that would be first start of your self-assessment. I'll share with you some of the other leadership assessment at the end of the program. But this is also possible that you could just look at each attribute and see where do you stand in your own eyes, in your own assessment. Now, in real world, so this is another framework. Let me step back. Where is competency and where is character? Character is long-term, or build up. Character is built up in long term, not short term. And it starts with your early life, in your childhood, in your school, college, university. That is where your character is being formed. It starts from the very early life. And competency you can form earlier or later, but that also starts somewhere there. So your character is deeply rooted in your personality. Now you can refine it, you can polish it, you can improve it. You cannot fundamentally change it. You cannot fundamentally change it. And whatever the character you develop after polishing and improving, you combine with your competency, which is your skills, practices, and behavior, right? And that becomes your leadership. Let's go a little further in these 2 attributes, 2 essential characteristics of leadership. So we said competency and character are the 2 important things, right? So on this scale, on this chart, you see leadership character on the top and leadership competency on the side. So let's just start from box 3 actually. If you don't have competency and if you don't have character, you are even not counted. There is no discussion. You are out of category of leadership at all, right? 3, no competency, no character, no discussion. You are not counted. But if you have developed competency, have developed good character, and you are developing your competency, which means that you are naturally a good person, naturally a good leader, and you are developing your skills. You become emerging leader in box 4 here, right? Character but lacks competence. So you could develop your competency, that's not a problem. Those are emerging leaders. But if you are in box 1, on the upper left side, you have high competency, but you have no character. It's very dangerous. It's very dangerous. Because if you don't combine your competency with the character, you could do things which may harm a lot of people. And finally, the right profile of leaders are in box 2, upper right side. You have high level of leadership and high level of competency. So this model is very powerful, and you can look around different level and profile of leaders and fit them into these boxes very conveniently, and that would give you some clarity. One thing I emphasize with reference to leadership development is role models. Always try to identify not only necessarily one only, try to identify 2 or 3 people you could take them as your role models, and that gives you a lot of clarity. For example, for me, the business leadership, Steve Jobs is one of my role models. I have watched his 2 movies, life biographies and books, and so I know a little bit about his life, how did he spend, and that's one role model to give me a lot of clarity. The other role model is, for me, is Barack Obama, political leader, but very inspirational and with a high level of character. So these are 2 models. I have many more, but in the political and business side, these are the 2 role models I'll follow. But if you look around in the real world, you can clearly identify people who are good leader, who are not good leader, who have the character, who do not have the character. And then you can see into their behaviors, into their acts, and the consequences of their leadership. As I said, there are people who reach to these leadership roles temporarily, but not in the long term. Now pay attention to this framework here, or template, your journey to authentic leadership. It's very important to understand. And this is a broader framework of leadership. So if you notice here, the scale is like your age, the horizontal scale. It is starting when you're born, 0 probably, and then the first phase is somewhere like 25 to 30 years. This is where you prepare yourself for leadership. Now this is a leader's life profile, or leader's journey, life journey to become a leader. So first phase, the start of the life, going to school, college, learning, developing a lot of things, and by 25, 30, you are ready to enter into the practical world, right? That is where your second phase starts, phase 2. Now here you are actually practicing leadership. Earlier or later, or somewhere in the between, you are doing a lot of practice, a lot of leadership practice. You could be a manager, that's also a leadership role. You could be a director, you could be CFO, you could be CEO. And then the third phase, which most people forget, this is what I mentioned earlier, that look, based on the quality of life we are enjoying nowadays, it's very easy, practical to expect that you would live until 80, 85, or maybe 90, right? So what are we going to do for the 60 to 90? 25, 30 years is a lot of time. People don't plan for it. And by the way, if you think that after retiring you will just take rest, well, there are some statistics available, very alarming. Actually, it's from USA. In USA, the very active corporate professionals, very active, if they have spent a very active lifestyle, and if they retired just to relax and do nothing active, their expectancy after retirement is only 5 years. In about average 5 years, they die. Because the thing which really kills them is that they are no more useful. They are no more important. Although they may have $1 million in their bank account, but that feeling really kills. So it's very important for you to really think now that what is the vision of your life and what are you going to do? As I said, that the best part of our life, which is the second phase here, we spend like a machine. And that's the part which really need to enjoy most with our families, with our kids, with our loved ones, with our friends. And also create value, not necessarily that you don't enjoy work environment, also there, but it only happens when you have good level of alignment, what you do, what you say, and what you think. So the important thing to realize here is the phases and the journey. Now notice on the graph line here, the dotted line, that's linear, is straightforward. That is how you could project and plan your life. But the real one is really the one, the zigzag. That is how the real life happens to most people. So in the first phase, as I said, that you are basically developing yourself to become an active professional and leader. And earlier part of the schooling goes very straightforward. By the time you are college, university, you are competing for some jobs, you started to test the flavor of the real world. And when you are starting your career, that is the toughest part. Now what happens in that part, your transformation is started to take place in that part, because now you are no more in the educational or learning environment. You are in a practical environment. You are competing with other people. There are good people, there are bad people. You are getting successes, you are getting failures, and you are having all type of mixed experiences, right? Now what happens for most of the good leaders, great leaders like Steve Jobs or Jack Welch or other people, somewhere during their second phase, they have a setback. We call it crucible. Crucible is something serious. They are making very good progress. They were progressing, they are developing, and suddenly a setback happens. That happens with most of the people. Steve Jobs, for example, he got fired from his own company, right? That was the biggest setback. And many people thought, maybe he himself thought, that it's end of his career or ambition. But later on, Steve Jobs said himself that if that setback didn't happen to him, he wouldn't have achieved all those things which he achieved afterwards. So when he came back in '99 to Apple, you could see that the results Apple has produced are very different what they were doing in the beginning phase or the first phase. In fact, I would say Apple or Steve Jobs changed the world, literally. That was only possible because of crucibles. So what you need to realize and understand and agree and accept that, look, life is not only success, about only successes. Life is a mix of success and failure. Failures are an essential part of your success. Failures help you to get closer to your success. For me, it was peak of my career. I was working for Philips Electronics, made a lot of successes. I started my career in Pakistan with Philips Electronics. They moved me to Asia Pacific region in Singapore and Hong Kong. I worked there for 5 years. Very responsible position, working with 14 countries, and did such a good job that the company further promoted me and relocated me to USA in New Jersey in the lighting headquarters. And I was just flying very high and doing everything. And suddenly I got fired from that company. The company which made me, they fired me. And that's a different story. A lot of learning lessons I'll probably share in another session. But that was the biggest crucible of my life. I was new in USA, not a network of my friends and professionals. My kids were younger. My wife is always a full-time mom. And I had a major disaster. But I went through it, and today, or afterwards, I would say, I could give you some flavor. I was unemployed for 4.5 months. But end of that 4.5 months, I had 3 offers in my hand. 3 offers from the 4th largest bank in USA, that was one. From a Fortune 500 company, that was number 2. And the third was from a local medical equipment mid-sized company. So had I not been fired, I wouldn't have made all that effort, number 1. And number 2, what I learned during that experience, that was the most precious time of my life where I learned. And all the successes I had later on in my life would not have been possible without that crucible. So lesson we are, and also another story, it will come later with the another executive. So lesson we are learning here, that look, and this is another analogy I share very often. Life is like a pendulum. Pendulum to keep alive, to keep working, it has to move. It has to swing between left and right, right? So imagine that your life is like a pendulum. It's alive, it's working, it's swinging. And one end, on the one side, you have all of your hardship, efforts, challenges, pain, stress. That's one side. And the other side, you have successes, your happiness, your joy, your achievements, your good time. That's the other side. Now, in order for the pendulum to keep working, it has to swing both sides. It cannot stay on the one side only. So lessons here is that if you are in a bad side, if you are in the stress, challenges, worry, it would not be always. Pendulum would move to other side soon. It has to. Or if you are already on the other side, enjoying successes and joy and happiness, there would be hard time for you. You need to be prepared for that. That's part of life. That's part of life. Very important lesson to learn from the very beginning. Now, this is another story of Crucible, but I'll pass on that. We already covered that. So here are, to start with the authentic leadership. Let me share with you the 6 mindsets you need to start framing now. So you might already be there and you might already not be there, but this is very important to start developing and creating a leadership mindset. And I call it mindset for success with people, because leadership is all about people. Leadership is not really working with only machines and equipment. Leadership is about working with people. People are the most important resource in today's environment. So number 1 is mindset. It's all about people, right? So anything you want to do, of course, you will do a lot of things like a strategy, like process, structure, but it's all related to people. You need to work with people. That's a mindset. And you could only work with them successfully if you become an authentic leader. One mistake many people do, your people promote you. So who are your people? Your people are the people who work for you, basically who are under you, part of your department or part of your subordinates. Many times people make mistake that they don't pay attention to their own people. They look upward, they identify few people, their boss, maybe boss of their boss, as very, very important people, and only focus on them and don't pay attention or don't give regard and value to their own people. Now, in reality, what happens, that's a very bad strategy or approach to really make development or grow your career. In reality, what happens that the opinion of your people, the junior people who work for you, is very critical for your own development. Because what happens that, for example, if you are a departmental manager and there are 8 to 10 people working for you, and if you have not really paid attention to them or did not behave with them properly and they have a bad opinion for you, although your boss perception is very good about you because you all the time do good things with your boss and boss of the boss, are they going to promote you? Probably not, because for them the opinion of your people matters, because they are smart people to understand that, look, you may do fake things with them, probably you are already doing that, but your people know you closely. They work with you every day. They work with you 8 to 10 hours probably every day, right? They all know good and bad of you. If they think good of you, you really are good. There are high chances. But if you are not good, if you are bad with them, you are a bad manager. So pay attention about your people. Value them, regard them equally as you regard and value the senior people above you. There are many talks in the business journals or business circles about the best place to work, and they define best places as the places with cafeteria and gym and babysitting areas and rest areas, all those things. Well, in reality, the best place is really where your buddies are. Those things don't count, but your buddies count, and buddies mean your close friends. Because think of this, we spend our life at work, right? The best part of our days we spend at work, 8 to 10 hours, more time with the work than really with families. And what makes you happy? Not the gym, not the babysitting areas, not the dry cleaning, not the cafeteria, but really when you are among your friends, when you are among your family members, you are the happiest person, right? So of course you cannot bring your family to your work, but you can create friendship. Now this is a debatable topic, but I'm a big advocate of creating friends, close friends at your work, because the workplace is so challenging, so stressful, that you need to exert some of your pressure and stress to your friends, so people could listen to you and advise you. So always, you don't have to make everyone your friend, but in a workplace, depending upon the size, 2-3 people, maybe 3-4 people, where you could share everything with them, is a good idea. It really helps you with your emotions and your stress management. And then this is what I said earlier, that there is no work-life balance. It's about work-life integration. And again, these are the things we talk much more in detail when we cover that life integration session in this program. But as a mindset, you need to believe now that it's not work-life balance, it's work-life integration. Now, office politics or workplace politics is a topic which I think exists in every workplace, but it's not talked about much. It's not taught in the business schools. It's not talked about by the senior executive people. It's not mentioned in the books. There is not much literature, but everybody has to face it. And so it's very important to develop some approaches. Now, first of all, office politics is not bad always. There are good and bad politics, depending upon the organization. But the simple rule is that you don't have to get involved. But if it involves you, which it might, then you have to manage it. You must manage it. When your reputation is involved, when someone is blaming you for something wrong, you need to stand up and take the matters in your hand very firmly with boldness and handle it. So you cannot all the time ignore it that I don't get involved in the office politics. No, you have to when you are required. And finally, so these are the very practical tips based on my life experience with different cultures and organizations working. Never burn your bridges, which means that if you have a disagreement with your boss or another senior person or maybe another colleague who is important in the organization, then don't take it to a level where you're not talking to them, you're not facing each other, there is a serious level of conflict. Don't raise it to that level. It's very natural to have disagreements. Even it is natural and common to have some conflicts, but never reach it to a level where it becomes a big fight and everybody knows about it, because that would hurt you more than anything else, especially from a personal point of view, because the emotions you develop based on that fight really kills you inside. So you need to work on your emotions, and again, this is what we would discuss in more detail in the emotional intelligence. But it's easier once you have self-control, self-discipline. It's easier to forgive than fight, and forgive in a manner that you really feel proud of yourself, that you did something with other people that are not capable of doing it. So these are the advices. You need to start working on your mindset. For leaders, it is also very important to have a vision. So I'm not sure whether you are in a leadership role. I know there are many senior people in this program. I'm sure you already have 10, 15, maybe more people working for you. There are already many CFOs in this program. There are financial controllers, there are finance accounting managers, there are analysts. So wherever you are in your journey, it's first of all, it's always ongoing. You have made a lot of progress so far, and going forward, you still have to make a lot of progress, right? So don't take it that, oh, okay, I'm an analyst, so probably I don't have to do that. I'm junior, I don't need a vision, who would listen to me? No, don't limit your job boundaries, the boundaries of your role, to really limit your potential. You have the potential to become a C-level executive, CFO or C-level, and you will someday. But don't keep your current job and your leadership profile separate in your mind, at least. You are already making good progress as a leader. The one simple reason that you are sitting in this coaching program, it itself is a solid proof that you have leadership potential. This is not a program where people are nominated by organization. Actually, I don't like people who come from the corporate nominations because they are not highly motivated. Even those of you, I know some of you have taken the financing from your companies, but it was not the company or your boss who recommended this program. You found this program and you saw an opportunity to get it sponsored from your employer. Good, but it was your motive. That's very important. Simply by taking an initiative to come into this leadership program, you are already a leader, or at least have the leadership potential. So that's the mindset you need to develop, number one. Number two, you need to do few things which may not align with your current role, but you have to do it. And vision is something like that. Vision, so if you're in a junior role and you said, look, I don't know if I have any vision, anybody would listen, well, you start practicing creating visions. So if you're working in a finance department, you are in the receivable area and you see an opportunity to automate that receivable. So you work with your banks and you work with your ERP provider and you work with your boss and you create a vision of fully automating that process, fully integrated, fully automated. That's a vision. The only thing is that when it comes to the vision, you really have to own it and you have to be passionate about it. So whenever you go, whoever you talk, people say that you are very passionate about this project and you say, yes, this is my vision. And suddenly you are communicating your leadership profile and people are seeing something in you. So you are practicing, of course, as you grow in your career and your leadership roles, you will have more and more visions and stronger, larger and larger, but at least you start practicing with the vision. So first of all, to find out a vision, it needs to align with the organization. If your vision requires some additional resources and organization is already in a survival mode, no resources, then don't do it, because that would looked as bad. So you need to align with the bigger organizational vision. For example, if it is growing well, the business is growing, think of implementing SAP or an ERP system. If you are a CFO or a financial controller, that would be a good vision aligned with the organization. And especially when there is a major change in the organization, many businesses are merged and acquired by other companies, or there is a new CEO or there is a new CFO. That is the time when majority of the people are prepared to accept change. So if you're already a leader, for example, if you are a CFO and you want to bring some fundamental changes in your organization and your function, and there is a new CEO or the group CFO, that's a good opportunity. Capitalize on that. The new CEO or the CFO or the group CFO will be willing to listen to you for improvement, because they also need to show some results, and you also want to avail that opportunity to create some significant results. And always identify a good why, because that is what most people will ask you. Why do you want to do it? And how is easy. If you answer why, how would come itself by just discussing with other stakeholders. And show your determination and your passion and your enthusiasm for it. And then work with other people. So this is a small example of really leadership initiative, that you identify a vision, you own it, you get passionate about it, and then you start working around the organization to make that happen. And other stakeholders you talk also ensure that they also have some stake into it. They also have some interest into it. So for example, when I worked in one organization implementing SAP, it was a good sell because it would save a lot of money in the long term for the company, but also giving a lot of empowerment to other executives, that simply by getting additional information or real-time information, how effective and better they could do their jobs. And also, if this is a project like that, people are working very hard, there has to be some incremental rewards and achievement for those people, so they keep motivated. Now, what is vision and what is not a vision? A simple guideline. This is not absolute, but a guiding factor. That first of all, it's future oriented, long term. It's inspirational, where people really get excited. It's clear. It's aligned with culture and value of the organization. It's talking about a change management thing, that things would change. And you add some emotions into it. Another example from my own career, when I was in my early stage of developing my career, I took initiatives. When I was in Singapore working for the Asia Pacific region, I developed a passion for activity-based costing. And I don't know what inspired me, but I was really passionate. People started to call me ABC man. I read about 10, 12 books on it, and I researched the IT system. I conducted training. End of the story, I was able to implement activity-based costing in 6 regional plants. That became my project and my achievement. Later on, when I moved to North America, I developed the same passion for balanced scorecard. And I did the same thing, and I kept implementing, rolling out balanced scorecard until I was holding corporate positions. and ended up implementing 3 balanced scorecard projects in different organizations. So another thing, very important thing about leadership is to realize that, look, every one of us has a job description. Depending upon the position, there are routine works and there are some very responsible work or responsible tasks. You grow your career by simply not doing routine works only. If you, for example, if you are a finance manager or controller and you said that, look, I'm doing everything perfectly, all of my routines works are completed in time or even before time, nobody would notice you because you are doing what you are expected to do. You become a leader by doing extraordinary things, the things beyond your routine responsibilities, especially the structural improvement. So if you are in a leadership role, controller and beyond, or even in a managerial role, think what you need to do over and above your routine responsibilities. So not only, of course, you have to accomplish your routine responsibilities, but what you could do beyond that, especially structural improvement like automating the receivable process, suppliers payment process, that's a structural improvement. So the benefit is that if you create a vision, if you initiate the idea, and then you talk to the lot of senior people and stakeholders, and you drive the project, and ultimately you are able to achieve and accomplish it, that becomes your project. Although there may be another 12 people who might have worked on that project, simply because you took the initiative, you become a champion of it, you worked around it, you get all the credit of that project in addition to other people. So when I did the receivable automation or suppliers automation, and I did the SAP rollout, people thought it was my project and I did it. I was only a project manager or someone who initiated the idea, and then I put together a lot of resources around me. Those were the people who actually worked on it. Now, it doesn't mean that I did not pass on the credit to them. I'm saying that people take the credit for their work, but as a leader, you get the credit for your leadership, that you led the project, you initiated it, you make it happen. And that's very important for your leadership career and your journey. Okay, I'm looking at the question box and I'm not finding much here. There is very simple question, difference leader and manager. That's very basic, Atif. So I suggest you just search this Google term, difference in manager and leader, and you will find it. Second, who attending CFO strategic program? No need to attend a strategic leadership session in this program. No, in this program we are not, yeah, that's a good question. In this program we are not covering all the strategy sessions. The only thing we cover in this inner circle is strategic thinking, which is important to your personal leadership. But the other stuff, as I said, there is so much, too much to cover in this program. So either I could have included and make the program for 18 months, that would be too long. So I did not want to really increase it beyond 12 months. So we kept the content 12 months. But to go into the deeper strategy level, then that's a separate program. That program we do for 12 weeks with 12 sessions of 2 hours. So that's also a very detailed 24 hours program. And we only talk about strategy over there. As I said, many of the people who have completed this program or are doing there in this program, but you see yourself that whenever you feel that there is the right time for you to start a strategy, I think you should do that program. Otherwise, if you are in this program, I suggest you focus on this program and develop your leadership. But the purpose of that strategic CFO program is really in a short term to transition you from a traditional CFO or traditional business manager to a strategic CFO or a strategic business manager. Because in 3 months or 12 weeks, we share the level of knowledge and information about strategy equivalent to or maybe more than what you could learn in an executive MBA program. I research a lot and it's very practical stuff. So rather than reading books and books, we just talk about the practical stuff, and that's how we cover in the 12 weeks. And really people develop the knowledge and expertise level where they could do it practically. Okay, so those are the only questions I have, but feel free to drop and I'll get back to it. But let me continue with the contents here. So the next topic from a leadership point of view we want to talk about is about culture. And please realize that the way I'm covering the topics for this authentic leadership, we are starting with high-level concepts, high-level leadership model, high-level leadership concepts, high-level level ideas, high-level things like culture, vision. So this is with the purpose to help you to create the right mindset or refine your mindset or clarify your mindset. And as we move forward this month, not in this session, but the next session and the session afterwards, you will see that we are more moving to tactics, the practical things, that in order to take these frameworks and leadership concepts, how do we do practical work in a day-to-day environment, and that is, we'll talk about those things specifically. So, so that is the sequence we'll be moving along. So the major issue with the culture is that culture is different from place to place, region to region. And even organizations have different cultures. Now, the culture is becoming very critical for us because in the new era, experts are saying that an average professional is expected to make 12 to 15 job changes in their career lifetime. So 12 to 15 in today, based on today's situation. If situation change further, it could be more. Now, my father worked one company for 40 years. That's not going to happen again with anyone nowadays. I myself changed 7 to 8 roles in my career. So which means that wherever you are, whatever you are doing, all jobs are temporary. It may take 1 month or it may take 10 years. Nobody knows. But the way, the pace with which changes is happening, something will happen that you will move to another role. It could be a promotion. It could be getting another opportunity. It could be your job is eliminated, whatever. So with the changes in the job, if really it's going to happen 10, 12, 15 times, which means you would move from company to company, different culture to culture, and maybe you change regions. So if you move from a country like India or Pakistan to Singapore, it's a very different culture, Singapore and Hong Kong. Or if you move to Europe, or even if you move to Middle East, it's quite different, right? And many people become overwhelmed with the change in the culture. Now, Middle East, majority of you are from Middle East. And one unique characteristic of the Middle East is that almost all the working class is from outside of their home countries, except for the local workers, local employees. All people have moved from their home country in most countries in the Middle East to work on some short-term or long-term contracts. Everybody is out of their own basic home culture. Now there you find a lot of cultural mix and diversity. And it could be positive, it could be highly negative. And most people found themselves trapped into a negative situation. And the most common thing I hear is there is a grouping, there is certain group is more dominant, and they don't let anybody come outside, or they don't let anybody grow, those type of things. It's culture as well as the office politics, both together, right? So politics, let me make a statement on the politics first. Office politics is something, if you want to see, you will see a lot of office politics. And if you don't want to see politics, you will not see much politics around you. So it's relative. It happens, it exists, but really you can control a lot based on your desire. So that's about the politics, culture. Now, if you are in a leadership role, what happens that many people wrongly think that now they are responsible to change the culture of this organization. I will change the culture of this organization, right? As a new leader. That's not easy or not possible. Culture is very deeply rooted in more organizations. What you see here in this diagram, culture, how do you define it? Culture is something which is practices acceptable in a local culture. In something which may be considered very bad in a country, maybe very good or acceptable in another country. So culture is based on what you do, what we do, and what we do based on our values and attitudes. That determines culture. So the question is whether you can change the culture or not. Well, let's understand a little better. So in this chart you see here, there are two things which basically drive the culture of an organization. There are things on the surface. which are basically practices, behaviors, the company policies, procedures. We all see those things on the surface, on the top. And so when you look at an organization or a culture, people say that's a culture. That is how the organization works. But really? I mean, if you look deeper, then it's whatever they do, that all based on their belief and assumptions and attitudes of the people there, their values. All those informal things inside them at the personal level really determines what is being practiced. More specifically, to explain this thing, look at this chart now. So there are 4 levels of culture or working environment in an organization. If you start from the bottom, so there is the culture part, deeply held assumptions, values, beliefs, and norms. It could be local culture, regional culture, country culture, or organizational culture. How do we determine that culture, or how do we develop that? Based on behaviors of the groups and individuals, right? Second box. How the behavior is developed is based on the infrastructure of the organization. So the practices, the systems, the measurements, and the rewards in this organization determine the behavior of the organization. For example, there is a famous or other notorious policy from the General Electric, which called force ranking. And force ranking was basically a system of performance evaluation that whether you do a good work or bad work, the company forces at least 10% of the lowest performing people outside the organization. Now those 10% lowest performing in GE could be very good workers, but it was force ranking. And for GE probably it worked. It was a very large organization with very high level of standards. What happens, many other organizations blindly started to copy that model. And it resulted in a very bad behavior and culture in the organization. People started to feel really not treated fairly because people were working hard and they wanted to force 10 or 15 or in some cases 20% people outside the organization for no reason, none of their fault. That created a culture, wrong culture, systems, measurement, and rewards. And finally, the processes which creates these infrastructure. So this is a logical model that whatever you do on the surface creates creating the infrastructure, results in behavior, and ultimately forming the culture of the organization. If you look at the two sides of this diagram, on the left side is the scale of difficulty and easiness to change that. So if you look at the culture, culture is the most difficult thing to change at the bottom, right? But as you move upward, behavior is a little easier than culture to change. Infrastructure is even easier, and processes you could change very faster without much effort. So that was the easy to difficult scale. On the right hand side, if you look, long term, short term, cultural changes happen in long term. Behavior and infrastructure mid-term, and process and tools short term you can change it. So here is the idea. When I was working in Middle East for a short period of time, 2.5 years, I was already there in the US for almost 17, 18 years. And they hired me from USA. And the reason they hired me, that they wanted to bring some Western practices in their company, some modern management tools, which I had experience working in different companies. So I went there. And it was a Saudi company owned by Saudis, run by Saudis. There were a lot of expats, but the main driving force was really Saudi owners, family business. So they have a strong culture, not only the Saudi regional culture, but also the family culture, as well as the local practices. One major challenge I faced everyone, so they give me a lot of authority, by the way. I was the group CFO level, and they gave me a lot of authority to do things, and they genuinely wanted to do those things. The main challenge I faced in this organization, that people would tell me that, Mr. Salim, this is not USA, this is not America, this is not Philips, it doesn't work here, it's different. Everybody would tell me the same thing. And And one thing I believe that, yes, owner, the chairman of the group, really wanted to change, although they also have some difficulties to change, but there was a genuine desire and interest. So what we did, of course, my first focus was finance and accounting. So there was, with that culture, you can imagine the practices they were doing. The first thing I did, or one of the first few things I did, is to bring changes in their performance appraisal process. There was about 150 people in the finance and accounting, big department, right? And a big culture, a strong culture. So first thing we did, from the annual appraisal, annual performance evaluation, we changed that to quarterly appraisal, which means that yes, you have annual goals and annual targets, but let's see every quarter what you have accomplished and what you are struggling for everyone, every staff member, 150 people. And then we implemented it. Now imagine, that was the first thing we changed on the process, right? It changed the reward system. Look at this box triangle. So we started from the top, which was easier to do, and we could do in short term. It took me 2 months, maybe 3 months to implement that. And that started to change the reward system in the organization, because if you are not behaving, not performing well in 3 months, then you are already assessed for that part. Now, no wonder it started to change the behavior of the people. People were more focused on achieving their objectives on a month-to-month basis, because in an annual appraisal system, people forget about their annual objectives. And only somewhere in November, December, they wake up and they try to make some fake things to show good, look good. When we converted that to quarterly appraisal, people become much more active and proactive rather. And I did not stay, so I'm not expecting that, I'm not saying that culture was changed in 3 months or 1 year. No, culture would change maybe at least 3 to 5 years. But at least there were some behavior changes we noticed. And had I stayed longer in that company, I would have noticed cultural change. So that is how you bring changes in the culture. So that's one thing through this model. The other important thing to understand about culture or cultural alignment is that the big companies like General Electric or Apple or Google, for them the culture is very, very important. For example, Google. #1 criteria for Google to hire any employee from outside is cultural fit. If they find an employee who has all the right experience, right education, right technical skills, but if they find that person is not aligned with the Google culture, they would not hire that person. That is how important the culture is. So, and they protect their culture, because culture is really a driving force for many organizations now. Apple, for example, Google, for example. These are the global companies, and they have to also watch and observe and manage and maintain the local cultures, like regional culture. Now, culture of United States and culture of Saudi Arabia are very, very different. Work ethics are different, work standards are very different, right? So you don't expect or country like Pakistan, you don't expect a Pakistani or Saudi or Indian or Bangladeshi to really hire anyone and immediately they are conforming to the cultural standards of an American organization, right? So what do they do strategically? If General Electric hire a employee in Bangladesh, they say, okay, and they found suitable person and say, okay, welcome. You are hired as a so-and-so in this organization, and now you are part of GE culture. Welcome. So here are our mandate, here are our standards or practices, and now onward you are going to behave like a GE employee. Now they don't talk about the Bangladeshi culture. They don't talk about Pakistani or Saudi culture. They talk about the corporate culture, mainly specific to General Electric, so that people could feel proud about it. So that employee from Bangladesh or Pakistan or Saudi look at that mandate and say, wow, I'm now a GE employee, American company. Not necessary to follow American practices, but whatever the GE practices and culture is, I'm going to obey that. I'm going to respect it. And that is how they maintain a cultural environment from place to place. So that is one of the very strong practices you would find in many top-level companies. Okay. I hope everybody's awake. Well, that's the that's the downside of the online. If I do practical face-to-face training, I am very good at keeping my audience awake, Here the limitation, I don't see your body language, and you don't see my body language, but my body language is probably reflected in the emotions of my voice. There is, I'm sure you notice the energy in my voice and emotions and the intensity. So at least I'm awake, but yeah, some people have responded. Good. Yeah, so the reason, I just want to ensure that what happens sometimes, high-level concepts, people have difficulty to understand. So I just want to ensure that at least you are listening to the contents, and I'll send you that replay and the PDF file as soon as possible. But the beauty of this online is that you can review. So what I learned in this training session, and I don't know, 3 years I'm doing this, a lot of online trainings, and people are very happy like you. So what happens that when you are sitting with your computer looking at a screen, there are no distractions. You're looking at the model or framework I'm sharing on the screen, and you're listening if carefully, then you very well, your mind is working on it and it's digesting very well. But that's one part happens right there if you attend all sessions right. Second thing, most of the people review this material, not necessarily entirely, but maybe you said that the cultural part was really not clear. Let me go back to the recording and replay and see that part. And you just replay that 10 minutes of the cultural discussion and look at this slide, and it becomes very clear in your mind. Some people who, because of any reason, could not attend the session, they also rely on the replay recordings and PDF file, and they get exactly the same flavor. So that is, there are of course some pluses and minuses. I think overall there is a good value in this. Look, I'm sitting at my home, and probably you're sitting at my home in your comfort and leisure, and we are very comfortable, relaxed environment. We are doing this learning sessions, right? So, okay, good. Okay, someone is saying too high dose. Okay, Kanchan. Kanchan, this is your first session, or maybe the first few, because prepare for this. There's really high dose, not high dose. I call it small doses because it's only for 90 minutes. So a small dose, but within a small dose, you get high intensity or high potency. So you are basically in one pill, you are taking 1000 milligrams. Just prepare for that. And you really need to prepare yourself for that, because I really want to see full benefit going to all of you guys from these trainings and discussions. Okay, so back to the learning. You have another 10 minutes to go. Okay, those of you who have already read through 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, they would recognize this framework. This is the 7-habit framework. So one advice is that if you have not referred to that book, I'll show you that book title at the end of the session. Buy 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. That's the one of the book you should keep as your Bible. It's a leadership and business leadership program book, but very powerful. Now, in this leadership framework, Stephen Covey talks about 7 habits. And through the 7 habits, he shows a evolution in our life, that when we are born as young child, we are dependent on people, right? Even with starting with infancy, you are dependent for someone to feed you, even to that level. But even when you are going to schools and colleges, you are dependent. And then at a point of time, you become independent. That is where you're starting your career, right? You completed your education and you're starting your career, you become independent. Then he talks about interdependence, a true virtue of leadership, that it's not about being independent, it's being about interdependent, that you support other people support you. And that is the whole framework. And based on that framework, he seriously advocates developing personal leadership first and then public leadership. And he called it private victories and public victories. So I was very much inspired by that framework. And since we are talking about leadership, so I would like you to really adopt a mindset that this is the journey wherever you are, because even the people who have successfully retired, like Jack Welch, they're still going through a leadership journey all of their life. So it continues until the end of our life. So you might have already accomplished a lot, but wherever you are, try to see where your private victories are, and the level would change every time. For example, when you develop the confidence to make your first presentation in your classroom in college or school, that was your private victory when you overcome your confidence. And then you make a public victory by making a presentation. But then another level you change when you were looking for a job. And again, you develop your confidence to another level to speak boldly, confidently in your interviews. That was another level. And then you got the job. That was another public victory, right? So we keep on going through that private victories and public victories. You need to just ensure that where your level is, what you need to really achieve in private victories, and where you guys are, all of you. So the typical profile for this audience in this coaching session is people who are in the mid-career, like financial controller level, or maybe director or senior manager. That is where you are career-wise, and you are somewhere in the middle of your career, like already spent 15 years, probably 15 to 20 years, 15 to 18 years, and by age-wise, you are somewhere plus minus 40, right? That's a profile. If I talk about that particular profile, this is the time you need to deeply develop your internal side of your personality. So change your values, because you are already mature. You have already learned a lot from the world. This is the time to explore inside you and work out on your inner capacities, the hidden capacities and your hidden powers or potentials, and mix that with all the learning you have done, and you can do wonders, because people reach to their peak performance in their 40s to 50, even beyond 50. I'm not saying it stops at 50, but 40 is the turning point where people started to explode in terms of their leadership and in the terms of their potential. And I think most of you are there. So don't worry, as I said, it continues. So even if you are close to 50 or a little younger, you could still apply that. So from a leadership point of view, your values, your ambitions, your purpose of life, align that with your career. I'll share an exercise with you maybe next time, where you could do a life visioning exercise yourself. At least that clarify you, because usually we do that life visioning exercise in the 2-day workshop. The full exercise, the detailed exercise I did with my mastermind group, that was in Singapore for 2 days. But 2 days really they spend on this life visioning, and it was give them a lot of clarity. And those people who are very mature CFO level people, and they said, this is the first time I had clarified in my mind about my life. That's the power of it. So imagine, you can imagine that if that level of clarity you achieve for your long-term vision of your own life, how much you could do on a short-term and a mid-term. So this is again Stephen Covey, author of 7 Habits. And this is another very good quote, that we all the time try to behave by a role model. We try to pretend to be. So why don't we become what we pretend to be, right? It's a very deep quote, and I really liked it. Okay, emotional intelligence, I'm not going to start that. So I'll stop here. I think it's already enough stuff you have. Let me show you what I want to show you before I quit. So the stuff you see here we'll cover next time. And in the meantime, keep sending me your questions if you want to. Okay, this is what I want to show you, the last 2 slides. In terms of the book, I suggest that you buy these 2 books if you can. The first priority is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey. And this should be available anywhere. It is widely available. Millions and millions of copies have been sold all around the world. And you don't have to read from cover to cover, but start referring into it. There are very powerful ideas, and I usually use many frameworks from there. So that's one. Primal Leadership is also a very good book on the leadership, and it's from Daniel Goleman. So it's talk more about your internal side as well as your leadership style. And it's an enjoyable book. So if you could referring to these 2 books, that would be good start or good continuation of your leadership journey. The other thing is that your assignment for this session, I'll send you the slide so you don't have to make a note here. Next session, we'll also talk about Myers-Briggs model. Myers-Briggs is a personality assessment, most popular system in the world. You might have heard the name Myers-Briggs. So we have not covered that yet, but I'm just telling you that this would be covered. So what you could do, the first part of the assignment, first link is basically the official site of Myers-Briggs organization. You could go there and start referring to that material if you want to. And that site also offers you an official assessment of Myers-Briggs, the personality type. But they charge a lot of money for it, like $150, $175. You don't have to do that, but it's your choice. What I have done, I have provided you another link here. This, you may try this link, www.human-matrix. This is a free test, but it will give you more or less the same results. So as a starter, if you find time, just do that assessment yourself. It asks some very simple question about your lifestyle, your leadership style, and it would give you some label, some abbreviation that what is your style, right? And then we'll discuss in the session that what does it mean for you. Second thing which I think you can do right now is the take a leadership assessment. This is an online test. There are again several questions you will go through, and end of the assessment you just click it and it will give you some results that what are your lifestyle. So this is again not absolute. This is just starters for you to start creating awareness for your leadership development. Myers-Briggs, if you have time, you can try looking at those sites. If not, then don't worry. We'll start with that topic next time. But leadership assessment, you should do it anyway because you can do that very well now. Okay. So finally, I'm taking a look at the question box. And there are some comments, but I'm not finding any questions here. Okay. Okay, folks, any question, you can still write it. I still have 2 minutes for you. Yeah, there is Mahmoud Badawi. Can introverts become good leader? Absolutely. I'm an introvert myself. That's what Fraz Jan Mohammed actually. The question from Mahmoud Badawi, could you support the sessions with live case stories? Yeah. Wherever we have time and relevance, I try to bring case studies. So we will do that. Okay, then not today, but maybe next. Yeah, I will. Shailesh, sharing openly with office buddies can be sometimes counterproductive. How to overcome it? Good question, Shailesh. So this is a essential virtue of great leaders, that they create openness, visibility, and confidence to share what they want to share. So of course, it doesn't mean that you are sharing your private life publicly, but it's your openness that whatever is there in your life, you're comfortable to share with that. There is a very good example from Tim Cook. So Tim Cook is the current CEO of Apple, and Tim Cook has actually proved that he is the right successor of Steve Jobs, because you might have noticed that Apple has produced the best financial results. Apple is really at the highest level of their market cap. So he's doing very well. So he's really a good leader, Tim Cook. Tim Cook, I think 6 months ago, he revealed something publicly. And what he revealed is very irrelevant, but it was shocking for many people. And what he revealed basically, he acknowledged publicly that he is a gay. Now, as I said, it's very irrelevant information, but this was his openness. This was his confidence. This was his transparency of his life. Look, so approach is that, look, I have this thing, and I don't know if it is good or bad, but this is what I have. and I'm not ashamed about it. I'm not really proud about it, but he just revealed it based on the confidence. So that's one example of the great leaders, that they don't have any shyness about the good or bad things to share. So to answer your question, again, if I look back at my life, yeah, there was a time in my life, in my career, I was hesitant to really share a lot of things. Take this example. I now openly tell people that one time I was fired by Philips, the company who made me. I worked for 17 years. They relocated me from Pakistan to Singapore to New Jersey, but they fired me. That's the reality. I cannot change, right? But now I have the confidence. I have transparency. I have the courage to tell people and learn from it, really. That is what we are talking about in terms of the transparency and the openness. Okay, another question. Does leadership necessarily mean having total competence? No. Kanjan, it's not total competency. It's just, it's actually, if you ask me between the competency and character, what is more important? I would say the trust is the most important thing. It's a combination of the competency as well as your branding or your character. But what really makes you a leader is what people perceive about you, your perceived value. And your perceived value may come from your potential, from your competency, from your character, from your personal branding. For example, in my case, in my finance career, from the very beginning, I was more interested in the business side. I never took any interest on the IFRS or any audit or any those type of technical things. I was working with the business people all the time. That is how I just implemented activity-based costing and balanced scorecard, major projects. Towards end of my career, when I was really CFO for several years, I even did not worry to know about the IFRS. Auditors would come and I say, I don't know which IFRS it is. Let me call my controller, because he's supposed to have all these things by heart. So I would not hesitate. I was not competent in IFRS, and I did not really hesitate to share this thing. But my confidence was that, look, if, and this happened several times, that in the annual audit, there was an issue. Auditors disagree, partner level. They disagree with our treatment, and the controller could not handle that. So they brought it to me to really accept or reject. And at that time, I got involved into it. I read the IFRS, I read the technical literature, and I formed my point of view, and I argued with the partner of Big Four, and I made them agree with that was my leadership. That, look, I may not remember all the IFRS, but when it comes the time, I could go deep and really talk about those things. That was my confidence, and that is what is required from leaders, that they could handle leadership situations, not necessarily that need to expert in each and everything. Let me just check last couple of points here. Most of the time, management insists on results on a project or other tasks, but refuse to provide enough resources. How do you handle? It's a good question, Prabhakar. Look, what I mentioned about the vision, that answers that. That if you are an order taker, you would say, okay, I'm here, I'm available, tell me what you want to do. And they tell you what you want to do, then you say, give me this, give me that, give me that, give me that, right? That's one way of working, and probably staff people, not leaders, do work like that. Then there are leaders who look at the problems. So even if someone has given you assignment, and you look at this and say, we can handle it. And then you take ownership. And with the ownership, you take responsibility. And with the responsibility, you also take the initiative to drive it. So yeah, it's a practical problem that you are not given resources. But can you go to the resourceful people who are supposed to give you, and talk to them and convince them? Or talk to you. So you need to drive it, actually. It's not that simply you are available. I'm available to do it if you give me this, a list of the items. No. You have been, as a leader, they have shared the problem, and as a leader, you should accept to solve it, and then take the ownership, take the responsibility, and drive it across the organization. That's your leadership is. I hope, I'm not sure if I answered it, but that's what I would do. Okay, folks, so I think there is a lot to think about today, and thanks for listening. And I will send you that presentation and the replay as soon as possible. In the meantime, if you have questions, you can drop the question to Sabha email, and we'll address that next time. So I know it's quite late, many places. So thank you very much, and good night now. See you next time. Bye.